Hey, boys and girls, it's Mr. Matt. Today we are going to be going over Module 3, Lesson 4 of practicing with division. So we've been doing some division work this week, right? So, and a little bit before. So it says, I can solve a division problem by using a bar model or an equation. So the bar model is the biggest thing that we're going to be looking at on this lesson because we've been doing some work with some equations already. So it says a comic book store sold 8 times as many copies of the Team Amazing comic book as it sold of the Astonishing Force comic book. The store sold 549 copies of both comic books. How many copies of each comic book were sold? So we're looking at this bar diagram. What they've shown here is the first thing, this one little block. Okay, that is representing either Team Amazing or the Astonishing Force. We need to figure out from the word problem which one is going to be which. And when we look at the Astonishing Force here, it says that the Team Amazing comic book sold 8 times as many as the Team Amazing comic book as they sold of the Astonishing Force. So this first one, this solo, is going to be the Astonishing Force. I'm going to put AFORCE here. All right, so Astonishing Force there, which means this one would be the Team Amazing. Okay, so I'll put TA for Team Amazing, right? So now what this picture is showing is that we have, for every one Astonishing Force that was sold, 8 of the Team Amazing comic books were sold. And we know that when we combine them, there's a total of 549 total sold. So what we need to find out here is, well, first off, we know that means that there are 9 here sold. 1 here, and then 8 times that as much, so there's 9. So our division problem that we're going to be doing for this problem is 9 into 549. And then we're going to solve that just like a long division problem. So 9 goes into 54 6 times. 9 times 6 is 54. Okay, I subtract, I get 0, and I bring down the 9. Okay, so then I'm going to say, all right, well, can 9 go into 9? 1 time 9 equals 0. So we get an answer of 61. 61 doesn't tell us how many of each were sold. 61 is telling us what each one of these numbers in the bar model, are. So they each were 61. So we can figure out how many of the Astonishing Force are sold because there was only one of those that was sold. Okay, so Astonishing Force is going to be 61. Now we need to figure out, well, how are we going to find out the Team Amazing amount? Well, there were 8 of these, and each of these is worth 61. So that's where we're going to go ahead and say, okay, 61 times 8 is going to give us our answer for this one. So 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 6 is 48. So the answer would be 488. So we now know that there were 61 of the Astonishing Force sold, and that there were 488 of the Team Amazing sold. Now they ask to explain that. Well, we kind of just did when we solved the problem. Each one of these is 61, and there was 8 times we saw that. So there should be 8 times 61 there. So the only thing on this page that we didn't get to was part B, but we did it here. That would be 549 divided by 9. Okay, that would be our equation. And that's going to tell us, we could put anything here. We could say a C for copies if we wanted to call it copies, but that would be your equation there. 549 divided by 9 equals C. And then we said C equals 61, and that's why this answer here was 61. All right, let's try another example just so that we can just get a little practice with it. This one, there's no pictures drawn, so we're really going to start from scratch on this one. All right, so it says that the comic book store also sells collectible toys. The Gigantic Kid costs 4 times as much as the Marvelous Marvin. And the Hall of Heroes playset costs 7 times as much as Marvelous Marvin. If the 3 toys cost $1,044, how much does the Gigantic Kid cost? So for this situation, we are actually going to have 3 bar models. We're going to need one for the Gigantic Kid, one for the Marvelous Marvin, and one for the Hall of Heroes. So in this example, we're comparing the Marvelous Marvin really to everything. So our Marvelous Marvin, I'll put an M for the Marvelous Marvin. We're dealing with one of the Marvelous Marvin, okay? The Gigantic Kid, I'll put a GK. Okay, the Gigantic Kid has 4 times as much, so that's going to be 4 of those. Okay, and then the last one that we have is the Hall of Heroes, so I'll put HH. Okay, the Hall of Heroes is 7 times as much, so we need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. So that's our bar model. And again, it's not the prettiest looking bar model. Sorry, I'm not the most brilliant artist you've ever seen. Okay. But that is what your bar model would kind of look like, because we know that the Gigantic Kid has 4 times as much as this, and that was only 1, and that the Hall of Heroes has 7 times as much as this. And so 7 for every 1 there. All right. We know when we add them all up, okay, that it's going to be $1,044. So now we got to figure out, okay, well, how do we find out the cost of one of these toys, okay? So we need to say, okay, well, the total was $1,044. All right, and then we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 total toys in our bar model. So now we do our division. 12 into, well, it can't go into 1 and it can't go into 10. So we got to figure out how many times 12 can go into 104. I know that it can go in 8 times. Okay, so 8 times 12 is going to be 96. I need to do some borrowing and regrouping. So that becomes a 0. That becomes a 10. Still can't subtract. So I got to borrow from the 10 to make a 9. And this becomes a 14. So 14 minus 6 is 8. And then I bring down my 4. I know that 12 goes into 84 7 times, because 12 times 7 is 84. Okay, I subtract there and I get 0. So I get 87. Again, 87 is what we know is the answer for the Marvelous Marvin. Okay, so if Marvelous Marvin is 87, because it's the cost of 1, I'm sorry, it's the amount, the cost of 1, then I need to figure out the Gigantic Kid, and I need to figure out the Hall of Heroes. Well, if each one of these is 87, I have to do 87 times 4. All right, so that's 28, 32, 34. So 348 would be my Gigantic Kid. All right. And then for the Hall of Heroes, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I have to do 87 times 7. Okay, so 7 times 7 is 49. 8 times 7 is 56, plus 4 is 60. So that gives me 609 for my Hall of Heroes. Okay, so now I have all of those answered. So when we look through here, it tells you to write an equation, which we did. We did 1,044 divided by 12. And then it says write an equation to find out the cost of the Gigantic Kid. How much does the Gigantic Kid cost? And that's what we did down here for the Gigantic Kid. We did 87 times 4 to find out the cost of the Gigantic Kid. All right, so hopefully these 2 examples helped you with understanding the bar models and practicing with division, guys. Best of luck with your assignments today.